All right, so I wanted to talk quickly about comping. Not really about voicings or anything like that today, but just about something which I've been thinking about a lot. And that's really what is the guitar for? Why would somebody want a guitar to comp instead of a piano? And in most of the work I do, to be quite honest, it's if it, it often comes down to the fact that people like the sound of rhythm guitar because I play a lot of that kind of music. But when I'm playing in a modern jazz ensemble, I think it's quite nice to take some of that sound over into modern jazz. And for me, the guy who, well, there's two guys who I'm thinking of particularly, but one is Jim Hall, historically speaking, but the other guy is Peter Bernstein. And Peter Bernstein, for me, does more to kind of combine these two worlds than any other guitarist I've really heard active on the scene today. I really like his comping, and it's a big influence on me, to the point where probably sometimes I might sound, I don't know, well, you be the judge of that. I might sound a bit too much in debt to him, but I don't know. I think I get away with it. I don't think I'm good enough to sound too in debt to him to start off with. He really is great. So, I mean, one of the things I love about Pete's playing is the way he will just use very stock chord shapes but make them sound somehow interesting and amazing. And there's plenty of other videos online of people sort of talking about his comping and going into it in great depth. So I definitely suggest checking those out. But really, what I'm drawn to is something which I think is quite incidental to him. I spoke to him about it, and he said, oh, well, I just got to get the notes out. I have to do that. Sorry, that's really loud. I have to get that out. I have to play those notes. So, I pick. But, I mean, he could do it with hybrid picking. But for some reason, I mean, his technique doesn't seem to work that way. He does do hybrid picking occasionally, but he's not a big hybrid picker like, say, someone like Lage Lund, for instance. So, but I really like that. That to me is a much more guitaristic sound than going to go. I don't find that a bit. I mean, obviously it sounds great when Lage Lund or somebody does it, but for me it sounds a bit weak sauce. I'm not really into that, it's a bit like, go, whatever. And the other thing is that I have to turn the guitar tone up to get that because my fingers are quieter. So I'm always looking for ways to play with the pick. And I think that's fine. Because I think, obviously the fingers have some massive advantages, one of which is, being able to play. I mean, Peter Bernstein would literally play the chord like this, with two muted strings. You know what? You like mute like that or something. Which is fine, but obviously, like a lot of people go, well, I have to use my fingers to play those chords. So I don't necessarily think there's as much versatility and kind of in your voicings lost, as it were. So you're not making that much of a sacrifice in terms of what chords you can and can't play if you've got a good muting technique. And that to me is quite key. The other thing is like there's a whole rhythm guitar thing. So I mean, the history of the guitar in rhythm guitar is quite long. Like people think of it as a swing era thing, but like people were playing rhythm guitar in ensembles right up to the 1960s. Actually, Tal Farlow did a trio with Eddie Costa well into the 1960s, where he's still playing rhythm guitar. I mean, the original piano trios were guitar, bass, and piano, not drums, bass, and piano. So Nat Cole trio is a famous example. Oscar Peterson played with Herb Ellis, as well as with drums. I think people think of the piano trio with the drums being the kind of standard one, largely because of Bill Evans, who probably did more to put that combination on the map than anybody. Even Ahmad Jamal, although I mean, he obviously did a lot of important work and was massively influential. But I think like kind of almost people's piano education starts with Bill Evans, But you can hear Bill Evans and Jim Hall playing together on undercurrents, and Jim Hall often plays straight forwards. And in fact, actually, a lot of his early stuff is, he's doing that really, really well. So I'd say, like, it's a big misconception that people think that the rhythm guitar playing equals swing music, but it develops. I mean, if I just sort of give you an example, if I play like something like a medium rhythm changes, in the olden days, back in the 1930s, I might have played it like this. And that's very, very percussive. That's part of the reason why I'm playing it on a Telecaster, because if I played it on a 175, it'd probably just be really loud on the mic. And you play a big guitar and you do that with it, because you've got no amplification. And that was the sort of two-step jack, ding, jack, ding, jack, ding, jack feel. And of course, people associate that with Django. But you also have it in the American music of that era as well. A little bit later on, things start to settle down to more of a straight four. It can still be quite percussive. It's still got that. And then, of course, later on, people develop a more... Sorry, excuse me. People develop a more kind of smooth rhythm style. Yeah, often with the chords moving on each beat. Like that. A little bit more. Let me see if I can do that. So it's like walking chords, But I mean, you kind of can compare it to the drums, right? So early jazz drumming is really based around the snare drum. It's later on the hi-hat gets introduced, and you have more of kind of on a hi-hat, with Papa Joe Jones. Later on, the ride cymbal becomes a possibility, and of course you have Kenny Clarke and the bebop revolution. But everybody starts playing ride cymbals after that, not just like bop drummers, because they sound great. But they're much more legato, they wash the sound out a bit more. So when I'm playing, I don't know... I kind of zing 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 zing. I think it's as opposed to or all the different styles of drumming. Take like 10 minutes and explore Drum Genius and just have a look through all the different swing feels and how it developed. Difference between Sid Catlett and Max Roach, for instance. It's interesting stuff. They've got some traditional New Orleans feels on there as well, like press roll feels and stuff. So that's how I think of it. So then I'm thinking like, but obviously when I'm playing bop, I don't necessarily want to be playing straight fours all the time. So, I mean, that's where, for me, this kind of strummy sort of sound comes in, but not necessarily playing straight fours, at least not all the time. So a simple way, you can gear up to that is just like playing Charleston. And Charleston is a great way to sort of propel a jazz groove along, So if it's like bump, bar, like 1 and 2 end. So if I go... Then you can do a little push there. Another one that's really useful is just 1 and 3. And then sort of intercut it with Charleston to get a nice sort of feel. It's not too kind of, you can really feel the tempo there. It's not kind of all over the place. It has a strong definition. And for a lot of soloists will like that because it gives them, especially if you're playing in a duo or something, so it will give them a reference point, right? The displaced Charleston as well, 1 ba 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 ba, which I call the McCoy Tyner because it's... So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, yeah? So it's just putting a Charleston on beat 3, basically. But obviously you can only do that if your chord lasts for a bar. And then rhythm changes, there's 2 chords every bar. Okay, so, You know, you'll notice that most of the voicings I'm using here are very simple shell voicings. Like 1, 3, 6, 1, 3, 7, nothing fancy. Okay, so when it comes to kind of more improvisational rhythm playing and more broken up, I feel I can still maintain some of that feeling. So a little burst of thought there, right? You know, like things like Charleston's a great one to come back to it. Ba da 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 da. Somebody's in a dotted crotchet rhythm there, just to kind of break it up a bit. You know, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, it's a nice sort of a nice kind of rhythmic variety to have. Yeah, so I have a lot of fun with that, and I find like obviously, you know, I'm starting to use sort of more higher sort of, you know, voicings with more lead line in them. You know. I can't play today, but you get the idea, right? It's just kind of a way of kind of keeping the guitariness in there. I'm going to do another video, I'll talk about voicings and stuff and how to put that together. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of a perspective. It wasn't based necessarily around harmony, but it's based more around the kind of the way that I might play those chords and my sort of thinking based on the history of the music. I think a lot of players have gone over to becoming hybrid style or finger picking style compers, and there's nothing wrong with that. It sounds great, you know. But I think, like, especially in kind of the modern music, you hear a lot of these kind of droning sort of modal voicings. And those are really cool, you know, and they are in their own way guitaristic, but as great a colour that is, you know, sometimes I feel like you've got to have a bit more rhythm to it, and yeah, I mean, I just like the sound of the strumming. You could probably boil the video down to that, really. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you find it interesting. Please leave a comment below.